Hello, today I'm going to be showing you how to install castors at the bottom of a cabinet in the instance that you would want a rolling cabinet. So the first thing I did was turn the cabinet on its back, and I took a measurement, from the front to the back, and in this case it's 19.5 inches exactly, and then I had 2x4s cut to 19.5 inches. And I had 4 of them cut because I'm going to have to put 2 here, alright, and I'm going to have to put 2 on the other side. These are going to get nailed together, and then the castors will be mounted here. Now, I'm not really sure how far down these 2x4s are going to have to go, right, because I'm working with this is about not quite 5 inches, right? And I've got to be able to put my fingers under the cabinet at installation, after installation, and lock the wheels of the caster. So I also bought these 2x1/4 inch. I bought 4 of these, and I had them cut to 19.5 because what I might have to do is use them as shims, to bring these boards down. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2x4s and I'm going to take some screws that are basically the width, and I'm going to screw these together. So in order to save money in the long run, I got all-purpose screws. These are good for wood, masonry, metal, drywall, and plastic. And they need to be sufficient length to go through both 2x4s. And so this is the size that I got. Alright, and you will need an electric drill, and this drill bit, because I'm going to have to drill pilot holes for the screws, and that makes connecting these a lot easier. Some planning and forethought. Where to place your screws when connecting these 2x4s. Alright, I'm going to be putting castors here, so I don't want any screws in the way, so that probably would not be a good placement. So I went about 4 inches from each end, to drill my pilot holes. Now to measure to get the right width in order to be able to install the screws, I went with a size drill bit that's a little bit skinnier than the screw. Now, in order to make this easier, I'm going to use this drill bit. It's actually a little larger than the screw, but I'm only going to go about 1/8 of an inch, and that is just to allow me to drill the screws a lot easier, because it will be harder if the hole at the top of the board is skinnier. The screw might not want to evenly go into the wood, and so that's the reason for that. So that's just like a little tip that is helpful, but you can't go too far with that. You just want to go about 1/8 of an inch. You can see a slight difference. I just did this one. It's in an incorrect placement just to show you the difference. And then the one that I'm actually going to put the screws in here and here is just a little bit larger at the top as a result of using that larger drill bit. But like I said, didn't go in there very deep, just about 1/8 of an inch. To show you the difference, this is the one that I used the larger drill bit just to go into the wood just about 1/8 of an inch. How easy that is to place, And then it's more difficult over here, And this is going to kind of wobble around and give me trouble because of the length of the screw. See, this one just sits right there. So that's the reason for doing that. These screws have kind of a star shape, and most of the time you'll get a drill bit with the package, but make sure that you have a decent set of drill bits. In case this one goes bad, you can switch it out. So make sure you have a variety of sizes and shapes, of drill bits. Just to show you how much easier I have made this on myself by taking these steps, check that out. Check out how fast that went, right? That's what you want. Kind of taking a look at the placement of my castors and whether or not I'm going to be able to get my hand underneath this part of the cabinet in order to lock my wheels and unlock them. Now these are 2x4s, and this is almost 5 inches, in depth, So it looks like I'm going to need my shims. So I've placed my shims here, okay, behind this board, behind the 2x4s, and then I'm going to push it back, okay, and I'm going to test my castors again. 1/4-inch shims, and I have 2 stacked together, and I have them kind of in the center of where the 2x4s are going to be. So I'm going to attach these, okay, to the cabinet. And then I'm going to put my 2x4s back in there and then install the castors. I have my shims in there and they are centered, okay, so that the screws that are going through the bottom of the cabinet will hit them just right. And of course I have my 2x4s right under them. And you have to do a little bit of negative thinking because this is how it has to be done, all right? You have to put them on the inside of the cabinet on the floor, okay, of the cabinet. And so I'm going to put one here and one down here. You can see I have the 2 screws installed from inside of the cabinet on the floor of the cabinet. I'm going to put a screw in the front of the face of the cabinet, okay, through both of these 2x4s. And I'm going to go high with it instead of low because I'm also going to have to be putting screws in here for the castors. And I don't want those running in to these screws. Those screws are installed, okay? So I'm going to do the other side, and I'm going to wait until the very end, okay? And then I'm going to turn the cabinet upright, and then I'm going to put screws in these boards from the back side. I don't want to go in through the side of the cabinet because this cabinet is painted, and I really don't want to mess around with the finish on that. So that's why I'm doing it that way. I have these 2/4-inch shims, okay, I have them stacked together, all right, and I have them centered, and I already have pilot holes drilled on the bottom of the cabinet here, so that when I get ready to put my screws in, all I have to do is set my 2x4s in place, right, and then apply the screws, and they'll go through the shims and the 2x4s. Now, I could have bought like 8 of these instead of 4 and then place them side by side like so, okay? But since I didn't, I'm going to place them in the center, and I'm going to place them right over the screw holes that I have already drilled pilot holes for through the bottom of the cabinet. And that works just as well as buying double and placing them side by side. As long as they're centered, you're good. Before turning a cabinet on its face, tape all the doors shut and put a blanket down because you don't want to damage the cabinet doors in the front of the cabinet. Okay, I have the cabinet on its face, all right, and I put these screws in. I lined them up here with the 2x4s, right? You got to be real careful with these right here on this side, because if you don't drill pilot holes and get this screw straight in, it could go through the side of this cabinet, and then you've got a real mess on your hands. So be sure to do your pilot holes and go slow with the drill so that you are able to control it better, so that it doesn't shoot off to the side, okay, and ruin your cabinet. So I have it lined up on this side and this side. So now it's time to install the caster wheels. Selecting locking, okay, caster wheels, you must know how much weight each one of them holds. These hold 80 pounds a piece. Okay, this cabinet is 85 pounds by itself. Then there's going to be a sink and faucet installed. That's probably another 25 pounds right there. Then there's going to be water and pots and pans in the sink. So I opted for these 80 pound, or I think they're 90 pound, I'm sorry, casters, because each of them holds 90 pounds. So that is plenty strong enough to support this cabinet, because this is going to be a rolling or floating sink-based cabinet. Okay, so it's going to hold my kitchen sink. So as you can see, I'm going to mount it like this. Okay, just a 2x4 wouldn't be wide enough, and that would also put a lot of stress on the wood if you tried to put this whole caster on just one 2x4. You could have screws shooting through the side and all that, and then you don't have the support. So that's the reason for two 2x4s, or you could get a 4x4 if you wanted to, but I just think it's easier to work with 2x4s and just have more of them. So that's just my own personal opinion. All right, and when you get ready to mount this, make sure that you have it positioned in a way that you are going to be able to easily control the brakes. So these are the back wheels, all right, because the cabinet is on its face, okay? And so what I've done is I've taken an ink pen and drawn inside of each of the circles, so I'll know where to put my pilot holes for my screws. Another thing that you have to do is you have to hold this in place and turn the wheel all the way around to make sure that no part of the wheel or the brake is going to run in to the sides of the cabinet. Otherwise, you won't be able to roll your cabinet. Okay, so you may have to place things a little different than you originally intended to. In my case, I'm going to have to move over just a little bit so that my wheels and brakes will have room to move around. Okay, so as you can see, I did have to change my placement a little bit for my pilot holes so that the wheels and brakes will be able to move around freely whenever I move the cabinet. I only put one screw in, and I'm going to test this wheel to make sure that it moves freely and the brakes, nothing gets caught up on the edges, the inner edges of the cabinet. Also, installing this little doohickey right here actually helps, to give you more, to make it easier for you to place screws and whatnot. And there we go. So I'm going to start this one now. There it is, all 4 screws installed. Okay. And there we can put the brakes on. Well, I can't do this holding the camera. Yes, I can. All right, so the brake was already on. So just so I can reach up under the cabinet and control this brake, everything's good. So now, as you can see, the cabinet rolls around freely. All right, now this will raise your cabinet height, okay, about maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches, depending on what kind of castors you get. But now we have it. I have my rolling sink. So what's going to happen back here is there's going to be a hole cut in the back of the cabinet for the plumbing. Okay, and so whenever it's time to do plumbing work or anything like that, or change something out, all that has to be done is the cabinet has to be rolled away from the wall and things disconnected and then reconnected. So it's no big deal. And so it just makes repairs easier. Anything that you have on castors or wheels, as far as appliances or anything like that, freestanding or rolling, it's going to make repairs and cleaning much easier. Little note, make sure that when you are choosing your 2x4s and shims and all that, and your castors, your sizes and everything, make sure that the brake will go completely down and the floor won't stop the brake. In my case, it works out just right. There's a little bit of space between the floor and the bottom of the brake. So you have to keep that in mind too. I forgot to discuss with you another good reason for having a quote-unquote floating kitchen or kitchen on wheels, having everything freestanding and on wheels. If you live in an older house particularly, right, could be a problem because the floors settle and whatnot, and then that becomes a problem for the cabinets matching up and everything. And so if everything is freestanding, you don't have these issues. Now you might have them with wall cabinets, but at least all of your stuff that's on the floor, or not mounted to the floor, but shelves and anything else like that, pantries, it just makes it a lot easier if you have that kind of setup, like you're in an older home or a home that's going to be settling a lot. Of course, you don't always know that in advance. So that's another good reason to have a rolling kitchen or a freestanding kitchen. I'm going to put this in perspective for you, okay, about how much did that raise the cabinet? Not quite 2 inches. It looks like 1.75 inches. Thank you for watching my video on how to do a rolling cabinet for your floating kitchen, all right? And if you have any questions or anything, let me know. I think those are 2-inch castors. I'm not really sure, but I know the wheels are 2 inches. And you have to watch the castors too when you buy them. There's the kind that you screw in. Those are really not ideal for this project. You want the plate type that you can mount with screws for this project. Thank you for watching and have a great day.